Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of GTSCast, the best podcast out there for your Giantess and tiny people needs. I'm your host. My nickname on Giantess City forums is Monica's Precious, but you can call me Monica's. I know I will. With me is my co-host.
Hey, I'm Disthorn. You probably know me from Mutant Colossus from Outer Space, which is a game I made, and also various videos on size fetish.com.
And because this is the very first episode, we begin by letting you know our GTS biography. So first is our first encounter of the Giantess, tiny people fetish, the macrophilia, the microphilia. I didn't know I liked this, but I remember when I was about 13, 14, 15. It's very funny. We had in my country kids channel, and when that ended, they had like indie films, and indie and foreign films, like non-English speaking films, during the night. And I stumbled upon a film called, I think, Bocelli 78, something like that, and they had I think it's a Fellini bit of it, where there's a giant woman coming out of billboard and like teasing the pretentious man who wanted to take down the billboard because it's provocative.
Is it?
It's very much.
Is that the one where it's like just a small clip? I think I know that clip.
No. They took a clip out of it. It's not really a clip. It's like an anthology, and this part of the anthology was directed, I think, by Fellini.
Okay.
Which, if nobody knows, if anyone don't know, he was a very famous Italian movie. He used to filmmaker. He was very provocative, even during his time.
Right.
Now, definitely. And I remember the scenes even before, like, I found it on YouTube, the clips. First of all, the actress, which I can't remember her name, she was very voluptuous. That's for certain. And I think that's part of. I'll talk later about my favorite parts of Giantess, but one of that is the woman having large breasts.
Right.
I remember it so vividly because, like, one time in one scene, she takes him and puts him in her cleavage, and he like fondles her cleavage and stuff, and it's very much provocative and very hot. And
okay.
I think that was my first encounter, but the first time I actually knew about, well, it's actually a fetish, was I think an American documentary about the macrophilia and microphilia stuff. I think it was called Attack of the 50-Foot Man-Eaters. Like, it's a variation of man-eaters and Attack of the stuff, which, yeah, I don't really remember that. I remember, like, I think there were parts of size fetish and Giantess Zone films. I think they interviewed like dominatrix and stuff that did stuff with feet, and people who were like into old school comic books, which had, I think it was Gullivera, I think.
Oh, Gullivera. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. It's old. It's very old. I think it's older than me. And even one guy who used actually like miniatures to really visualize his fantasies, and he used, I believe it was quicksand, and put the miniatures in there and said like, yeah, it's kind of like a vagina.
Okay.
Like that, like it's swallowing the person. And that's when I realized, okay, this isn't just one. I'm not a freak. I'm one of those people. And the more I got into it, I realized, wow, this is really big community. But we'll talk about the community later.
Okay.
Disthorn, what about how did you first encounter this fetish?
Well, for the longest time, I was actually more into shrunken women. Because when I was a little kid, there was a show called The Borrowers on the BBC. And
they did a film about that too, didn't they?
they've done a number of films on it at this point.
Yeah.
The only one I really went and saw was the one that came out in like the late 90s, and I thought that was terrible.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait! Wasn't that the one with Tom Felton from Harry Potter?
I do not know. It had.
He was one of the kids. He was one of the kids of the Borrowers. I think. I don't know if it's the exact film, but
Tom. Do you mean Tom Hiddleston?
no, Felton, the Malfoy.
Oh no, definitely not. He would have been way too young.
It's not that.
Hang on. Let me
because he played a kid, but whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Borrowers. Oh, here we go. So it had John Goodman in it.
I think it's the same film. He was one of the normal humans, I think.
Like, he must have been super young then, because this came out.
He was a 9-year-old, I think, or 10. He's one of the older ones in the Harry Potter films.
Well,
So
maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, so, but like my like I did not like that version of the Borrowers at all. My favorite one was the BBC show. They made like it was basically like a mini series of like, I think it was only like 5 or 6 parts. But it featured the character Ariete, who was like a shrunken woman, and she had like this friendship going with this human boy. I don't remember the human boy's name, but he was a very important character. Anyway, years and years go by, and it's not until like my very late teens, I might have been just on 20, when I discover the film Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, the 1993 version.
Right, the remake.
Yes, the one with Daryl Hannah. I was just looking at the video store. We were still watching VHS, even though this was like 2000s.
This was like when Blockbusters was slowly getting destroyed, right?
No, Blockbusters were still going strong until just a few years ago.
That's right. They had DVDs and even Blu-rays, I think.
Yeah. Especially over here where the internet's shit.
Yeah, I guess when you live that far.
Yeah, when I mean that's a whole other thing, right? The government screwed up how the internet was rolled out, and so only now are we just starting to get decent internet, and things like Netflix are starting to take over.
Yeah, Disthorn, just for the listeners, if nobody knows where you're from, just I don't.
I'm from Australia.
I don't want to say my country, but for now, I'll reveal it later. But Australia is so big, no one can know where you are exactly.
Yeah. I mean, even if I was to say my state, it would be fine, but I'm not gonna. Anyway, so yeah, it's maybe. No, actually, I remember the exact year. It was 2001, because I was in my first year of TAFE. Which is like community college over here. Yeah, so it's 2001. I was at the video store and I saw the cover, which is like the classic picture of Daryl Hannah in a miniature city holding a car. And
straddling the freeway, right?
No, she's not straddling the freeway. She's straddling like a set of shops. So she's got one.
Oh, right. The freeway, the overpass, it's the original poster, right?
Yeah, that's the original poster. In the remake, it's like just a couple of buildings. She's got like 1 foot on one road, and then she's straddling the 2 buildings on the other side.
Oh, okay.
And I took this home and I put it in, and it just blew my fucking mind. Like, because it has, like, that movie actually has, like, a ton of really good Giantess interactions. And it's all done in, like, it's mostly done in camera. And
yeah, like camera work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I saw parts of
like
how they did it.
Very little of it is actually done with blue screen or whatever. So it's all done
Yeah, I
with
think.
a technique that's
Yeah,
called force perspective.
yeah. Force perspective. I think that's one of my favorite ways to elude myself to giantesses. You know, like even photographing someone in a very very specific view. So perspective. So that's awesome.
It's actually still used in a lot of films today, and people just don't notice.
Yeah, because it's very much like the CGI is so much advanced that you don't really know if it's forced perspective or CGI.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, CGI is always coming up in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like yeah, it's like a switch just flipped in my brain, and I was like, oh my god, this is what I've been fucking missing this whole time. And yeah, I basically just I haven't looked back. I got onto at the time it was Giantess.com. I don't know if you remember that website. And
I think I was a bit too young to remember that.
okay. Um, but yeah, and that's how I was introduced to this whole fantasy.
hmm And yeah, so now the next subject about our biography on the giantess community is actually how we got to the community. So actually, my entrance to the community was really recent. Until a few years ago, I was just searching the web for anything. I think I got into an old website which is not online anymore. If you remember Max Katz, Giantess, something
Max
like that.
Cats.
Yeah, he did like a lot of it's really an old site. He had a few like very bad photo manipulation, but until that time it was whoa blowing my mind. And he did a few compilation videos. And sometimes a few years ago, I think about 5, 6 years ago, they took his site down. I think because I couldn't found it. I couldn't find it. And after they took it down, I just went to my regular stuff, which was a bit of searching photos on like photo manipulations
Yep.
and artist renditions of giantesses on Tumblr. Rip, like rest in peace the Tumblr.
Oh
This is so
yeah.
mad,
I
so
only
bad.
I only just discovered some really good, well, some like Giantess Tumblr blogs that I was really into.
Yeah, and of course DeviantArt, which is always a good place to search for giantess pictures.
Yeah.
And a while ago, I just encountered an artist, a photo manipulator, which is actually from my country.
Okay.
And I said, "Wow, that's yeah, yeah." I think his name on Tumblr is Tantan, which in my language means small, like teeny. And I said, "Wow, you're really in the community, and you're from my country, which is not a big country." And he's like, "Yeah, I do a lot of stuff. I don't have." We started talking. He said he even once he went to one of the size cons
Oh yeah.
in New York, which is so awesome. I was so jealous of him because New York is so pricey just to get there, not including like everything around it. And so I started like to caption his photo manipulations, which he even I was so honored when he did that. He made a caption based on my captions. Like I had the idea of women growing due to exposure to sunlight, i.e., like photosynthesis in plants.
Right.
Which yeah, and he thought it was so cool, so he put it in one of his later photo manipulations with his caption, and I was so honored. And after that, I said, well, I wanted to do something else. And when I started to thought about this podcast, I said, well, I should try everything to get people to notice. But DeviantArt is for art, like visual art, not exactly for this. So I went to Giantess City, obviously, and here we are.
Right.
Disthorn, how did you get into the community?
So back in the day, my first the first forum that I was ever on was this place called Giantess.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, it had sort of two sections. It had the forum sections, and it had the content sections. So, like, do you ever go to Giantess Buru these days?
Yes, yes, I do.
Right.
Yes.
So imagine a site that has kind of like Giantess Buru, but it's not just pictures; it's also videos and stories. And then there's another section that's like the forums. It's set up like
Okay,
that.
that's cool.
But one of the interesting things was you couldn't just go onto the content section, download whatever you want. You had to pay points. And you got points by doing things on the website. So if you uploaded a picture that you'd made, you'd get a certain amount of points for that. If you uploaded a story, you'd get a certain amount of points for that. If you made posts on the forums, you get a certain amount of points for that. And if people liked you, liked your post, you'd also get all these little things that you could do that you could get points for, and then you could spend those points on content. And
Okay.
that's how I started. Because I initially started with making collages with like photo manipulations. I think you can still find those online around the place. They're very low res by today's standards because this is like
Wow.
early 2000s. But yeah, that was. I mean that was kind of where I cut my teeth on internet etiquette because I don't know. Do you remember how YouTube used to have a thing where your comment couldn't be longer than 500 characters?
Right, right. That was a long time ago, though.
Yeah, on Giantess.com, I think you couldn't make a post that was shorter than 250 words.
Whoa.
Yeah, so later on in this website's life, you could set like a forum, sorry, a thread that you'd made to allow grunt posts.
Mm.
But that was something you had to opt into. By default, you had to make a decent sized post.
Wow.
And if you posted something like you just posted the same word over and over again, you get kicked out. Yeah,
That's rough. That's rough.
it was pretty full on, but it was a porn forum, and it was probably one of the best sites I've ever been on in terms of like people being friendly and shit. Like one of the
Yeah.
best moderated sites I've ever been to.
Yeah, and it sounds like it because, like you said, there were points, and like you couldn't spend actual you won't spend actual money on art, yet you wanted to be active, and they reward. It sounds like they rewarded you
Yeah,
on
they
being active.
yeah, absolutely. You were rewarded with being active. You were rewarded with doing stuff that was helping the community. It was a really good site.
Yeah.
And then after that, I went on to Giantess City, and that's kind of where the
Hmm.
community is now, as far as I can tell, anyway.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like it's divided right now because there's no Tumblr. It's divided between the writing over on Giantess City, as it seems, and like the art split between Giantess City, uh, Giantess Borough, and DeviantArt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one other place which is Giantess World, which is like a writing site.
Right. Right. Okay. Cool. That's very cool. Um, Now I need to explain actually my nickname on Giantess City.
Right.
I hope that it'll clear a few things up, which is actually a Giantess reference
Oh,
in a
okay.
place I wouldn't thought it would be there. So even before I was a macrophile, I was a Pokemon fan.
Okay.
And I don't know, yeah, I'm a Pokemon fan since I was 11, I think.
Right.
And like it when it's really gained like it gained pop culture phenomenon. I'm still fan till this day. I started when the anime started around these parts, which is a long time. And during one of the sequels to the video games, I think it was Black 2 and White 2,
Mm-hmm.
there was a place where you actually made movies. It's sort of like a take on Hollywood, but it was really Japanese style movies. Giant monsters, time travel, and you can tell it's Japanese because it has a movie, like a serial movie, with a giant woman.
Right.
And the giant woman was named Monica. And if you played as the male protagonist, you would be called Monica's Precious during the film. And it was really, really. No, it wasn't really. It's a kid's video game after all.
Okay.
And there wasn't anything lewd or anything like that, not safe for work. But first time they recognized, okay, in a place where there are fantastical monsters, they're gonna do a movie about a giant woman. They have to do it, and they're Japanese. Japanese really love giant women.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Seven Deadly Sins, My Hero Academia. I think there's a one Mount Lady, isn't there? Yeah.
I'm not
I think it's
sure.
from My Hero Academia. I think it's from My Hero Academia. There's Mount Lady in Seven Deadly Sins. There's forgot her name. Whatever, she's
I know the character,
the
yeah.
scene of envy. Yeah, I think she represents envy.
Oh, okay.
And it was like, whoa, that's awesome. And so when I got to the forums, I said, well, I want to combine my fetish with one of my regular in air quotations hobbies. So I went with Pokemon. Even though I'm a Harry Potter fan, I could have gone with I don't know, Madame Maxime's lover, but Monica's Precious was so good for this particular stuff. Disthorn, your nickname is I bet it's very old. What is behind your nickname?
I guess it's pretty old. I actually invented it. It's the name of my fantasy character. Way back in year 9. For English, we had to invent a basically we had to write a fantasy story. And the lead character was named Disthorn. Which...
Wait, year 9. So it was when you were 15, 16?
Year 9.
I'm trying to think about where my country... Because my country does, years in high schools very differently. So...
yeah, 15, 16, that's probably around that time.
Yeah.
She was tall, but not what I would consider a giantess today. I just really like the name.
What, she was tall or tall like a basketball player or
tall like a basketball player?
Oh, okay, not a mini giantess. Okay, that's cool.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, she was like a tall blue lady, who was like a warrior, and her name is actually just an anagram of something else. I'm not going to say what.
Okay.
But yeah, that's I feel like my story is not quite as exciting as yours.
No, but it's still cool. I think about it, but your character is a tall blue woman. Did you ever met James Cameron when you were a kid?
No.
I think he somehow found out about it, and you need to claim royalties.
My lady also had 4 arms.
Oh, okay. So Goro, I think from.
Yeah. Like imagine. You remember in not Warcraft, bloody Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
Goro. Goro from Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat 3. There was a Lady Goro.
Oh, okay.
I would
Okay, that's awesome.
I would say my character was a bit sexier than that.
Maybe like I think there's a Hindu goddess, I think, which looks like that.
I'm not sure I knew about that at the time. My reference probably would have been Goro.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, so on to our next subject, and it's about us because it is the first episode of the podcast. Just a reminder, if you're just like zoning out and in, we are GTSCast, the Giantess and Tiny People podcast. So next part is my favorite parts of the actual fantasy of Giantess, which is, well, it's a lot of stuff. Mostly it's growth, like woman growing really, really tall. Added to that, large breasts and breast expansion, which is like it's a different fetish, but it's adjacent to it because it's about a large body part rather than the actual person.
Rather than the whole person.
Yeah, it's the whole principle of growing. Um, with that, I like my giant women mostly caring and non harmful,
Mm.
but I like it when they are destructive. I like it because it's of jealousy. Maybe it's because I think it's because I want someone to be jealous of me rather than the opposite other way around,
Okay.
which is pretty cool. Yeah, and everything with which coincides with that, either breast held or breast crushing. I rarely like. I don't really like shrinking. Rarely. I know it's kind of your thing, Death Throne, but
No, it isn't actually.
okay, never mind. But but I don't like the shrinking. I don't like really much feet or vor,
Mm.
and and other bodily fluids, other than breast milk, obviously. And yes, that's about it. And this Throne, what's your favorite part of the giantess fetish?
Well, it kind of I kind of bounce back and forth from different aspects. I definitely love handheld. That was one of the first things I really latched onto was being held in a giant woman's hands, being petted and fondled with her fingers. Just
It's actually pretty cute. It's actually pretty cute, like you're a pet and not like food and stuff like that. Not
Oh
like
yeah,
something to
yeah.
crush.
I'm not a huge fan of vor at all. Although I do like mouth play.
Mm.
I kind of think of it as like kissing, like full body
Like French
kissing.
kissing.
Yeah, yeah,
Like French kissing.
like that Tumblr blog that I mentioned described it as full body French kissing.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, it's a cute blog. If only I could remember the name of it off the top of my head. Anyway, yeah, so I don't have anything particularly against shrinking per se. I guess my thing about it is that there's so much shrinking in there's so much shrinking content that I kind of get bored of it.
Yeah, even in popular culture, I get it. Like most popular culture will make a person shrink rather than grow.
Yeah, that's totally right. But I definitely go more towards growth. I also very much love giant boobs. They are
That
they are some of the
that's
best.
awesome. Yeah, they
Um,
are. Yes, they are.
I'm also very partial to gentle giantesses,
Hmm.
or even like heroic giantesses. So
So like super heroines rather than super villains that grow.
yeah, sorry, something like that. Think about like if you're playing a D&D campaign, you're playing
Uh
like an
huh.
adventurer or swashbuckler, and you
Yes.
might kill the bad guys. but you're not going around murdering innocent people. It's that kind of standard that I'm going for.
Right. I think that, well, you reminded me. I think that's why I really got into Dungeons and Dragons, because I wanted to play a magic caster, which a female magic caster who that made herself grow, but I couldn't find like the Dungeons and Dragons have so much editions. I wanted to find an edition where it's easy to grow, and I couldn't find anyone who would actually play with me. And like, if I do it in front of them and they don't know my fetish and they're not okay with my fetish, it'll be weird.
Maybe. I mean, I've found a lot of people like they don't even really like if I make videos for Size Fetish Zone, right? If I just have one of
Mm-hmm.
them on, a lot of people don't even sort of cotton on to the fact that it's sexual because it's just a chick in a bikini who's going around stomping everything.
Yeah, I guess so.
Although, like, yeah, I don't know if you want to, like, because there's definitely something to be said about like exposing someone to a fetish and they don't know it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I get it. I get it.
I feel like you should be able to find like a D&D, like a DM who'd be like, oh yeah, we'll sit down, you come in for a session and we'll discuss like what your powers and limitations and stuff will be.
Okay, that could be cool. Yeah, that could be cool. Okay, and I think that'll do it for this episode. So, listeners, if you are a part of the GTS community, especially if you're a content creator, we'd love to have you on the show. Comment in the description below or on the post this video was shared on, and maybe you will be on the show. Until next time,
I'm Disthorn.
and I'm Monica's Precious, and remember, go big or go home. See ya.